Hi guys, and welcome to the latest video. This is a recipe for a simple bolognese. We're using beef here for this one. This is actually part 2 of our simple tomato sauce. So you make the simple tomato sauce from our original video and then you build on it to make the bolognese. Here you can see the ingredients all laid out. That's one portion of our simple tomato sauce, a 500-gram packet of minced beef and a red pepper. Start by getting a nice sharp knife, so be careful with your fingers, and cut all 4 sides of the pepper off like it's a cube, even though it's actually round. And then chop off the bottom as well, because there's no point wasting that. And use the point of your knife, which will be lovely and sharp, to score through and cut it into thin strips. The point will easily cut through the skin on the other side. Then turn them round and go the other way with the knife and cut the pepper into a dice. Once you've got the whole pepper diced, just set it to one side on a chopping board and it'll be ready to go when you are. This is our beef mince. As you can see, it's a 500-gram packet and it's 20% fat. It's dirt cheap, bog standard mince beef. 20% fat is a lot of fat. I think it cost £1.55, so you absolutely do not want to fry this with any oil. If you added oil, you'd have 20% beef fat plus olive oil on top, and it would be crazy swimming in fat, which is not what we want. Whack the extractor and the light on and set your pan to a high heat. You want it on a high heat, you want to get the pan lovely and hot because the idea here is to brown the minced beef. Once the pan's hot, you can hold your hand over it to see if it's hot enough. And to double check, just get a little bit of water, throw it into the pan. If it sizzles and boils, you know the pan is hot enough and good to go. Whack the minced beef in. Be careful to check that it doesn't have a sheet of paper underneath it. Some minced beef will have a sheet of paper underneath to absorb the juices. So if that's there, remove that before you put the beef into the hot pan. And then use your spatula. I'm using a rubber spatula here, but you could use a wooden spoon, you could use a wooden spatula, whatever you have to hand that will let you break up the minced beef. And it's really important that you don't leave it in these long rivulets that it comes in, the long minced strips. Break it up with the spatula, break it into pieces, keep turning it over, keep stirring it because you want to brown it on all sides, but also break it down at the same time. You can see here, this is broken down a lot. Most of it has cooked through now. I'm giving it a good stir just to keep breaking up the last pieces. Now you can see there are still pink bits of minced beef in the pan. That means it's not cooked through yet. You don't want to be serving anyone raw beef. So again, let the pan keep cooking away, high heat, turning, stirring constantly so all of those raw bits of beef are exposed to the heat and cook all the way through. Once it's ready, you'll see it's all browned off and there are no pink bits. Now you want to tilt the pan and have a look, and you'll see, because it's 20% fat, there is a whole river of fat there, and also the added water that they put into minced beef nowadays. So that juice is boiling your minced beef, not frying and browning it. You don't want to boil the beef. So now it's all browned. Tip it carefully into a sieve over a bowl. You can see I missed a bit there and it went on the side because I am clumsy, but you won't be, I'm sure. Once the beef is in the sieve, lift it up and give it a good poke around with your spatula or your spoon. Press it with the back of the spatula or spoon and squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible. You want to get rid of all the fat and all the excess water that's come out of the beef while you were initially cooking it. There you can see it's still coming out with a little squeeze. There's loads in that bowl underneath there. You want to get rid of much as possible to have the beef as dry as possible. So you can see, give it a tap, get rid of any excess. Pan's back on the heat. Turn it back up to high again. Remember to use the correct gas nozzle, that helps. And once the pan is back on the high heat, just pop your hand over it, and when it feels hot, it's ready to go. It will get hot really quickly because the pan will still be warm from having fried the beef before. So pop that beef back into the dry pan. The last little bit of fat in the beef and the last little bit of moisture will help it to cook off and brown now. We're used to looking at what you see here as browned beef. It's really more grey. You want it to actually have a golden brown colour because that's where the meaty flavour comes from when you're cooking with meat. So spread it over the bottom of the pan, leave it on the heat, let it cook. Turn it over every couple of minutes until you've got nice dark brown spots all over the minced beef. It's at this point you want to add a teaspoon of olive oil, and that's to help you cook out the red peppers that are about to be thrown in that you chopped up at the beginning. So add that teaspoon of olive oil, grab your chopping board with your red peppers on and just pop the red peppers into the pan with the beef and then give them a good stir. Mix that hot oil through the beef and through the peppers, and that will cook them out quickly. It'll only take 3 or 4 minutes for them to start to soften and cook, and then you'll be ready for the next stage. Here you can see the peppers have softened, everything's mixed together nicely, and then the next stage is just to take your portion of simple tomato sauce. There'll be a card for that somewhere floating around on the screen, probably in the top right hand side if you need that recipe. But yes, add 1 portion of simple tomato sauce, give it a really good stir through, and essentially what you have then made is a beef bolognese. So you've taken a simple building block of the tomato sauce, added 2 or 3 more ingredients to it, and now you've got a completely different dish that you can use, give to your friends, have for dinner, whatever, and really enjoy. You can see I've mixed this together here. And what you're going to do then is just look at the thickness of the sauce. If it's really, really thick, which this is, take your kettle and add a splash of hot water to the pan to thin out the sauce, because you're going to want to heat this through, because obviously that portion of tomato sauce will be cold. So a splash of water will thin it out and let you leave it on the heat without burning it or drying it out too much until it gets to the temperature that you want it to be, so nice and hot and ready to serve. So stir, 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 get it in the pan, get it on the high heat. When it's hot enough to eat, it's good to go. That's pretty much it. You've made the bolognese sauce there, and then it's up to you what you do with this sauce. You can serve it with the traditional spaghetti, you can serve it with any kind of pasta. Pasta bolognese is great. Poof, there it is, bolognese in a bowl, all done, out of the pan, ready to go. This is the spaghetti we used. It's a whole wheat spaghetti, but you can use any spaghetti, as I said, pasta, couscous, bit of crusty bread, whatever you like. Whack a bit of salt and a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan, and then put the pan on the heat and turn the heat up to high. The reason you're doing this is the pan can be getting hot whilst you're boiling your kettle. If you filled the pan all the way full of water, it would take ages for it to come to boil on the hob. The kettle is much quicker, so you do both at the same time. A little bit of water and salt in the bottom of the pan on a high heat, so the pan's getting hot. Then boil your kettle, and when the kettle's boiled, tip the boiling water from the kettle into the pan, which is already hot, and that means it will come to the boil in the pan much more quickly. You don't have to stand around waiting for it. There it is, boiling away. You want to have lots of water when you're cooking pasta. It shouldn't be just above the pasta. It should be absolutely swimming in water. Break the spaghetti in half, drop it into the pan, and then take any spoon, I think I use a wooden spoon here, just to poke any bits that are sticking up from the surface under the water to make sure everything cooks through nice and evenly. The salt in the water should be enough to make it taste like seawater. Poof, there we go. Now the water's boiling again. Once it comes back to the boil, you want to time about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer if you prefer your pasta soft. I quite like it with a bit of bite, but 10 to 12 minutes for most dried pastas. And then while that's on the boil, we're going to get rid of this fat and liquid that we drained out of the mince. Now it's had a chance to cool down. So you could just dump it down the sink, but you don't want to do that because it's animal fat. It will solidify in the pipes, it will block your sink, and it will make a horrible mess and a horrible smell. Take the box from the minced beef that we used earlier, whack a bit of kitchen roll in the bottom, or you could use toilet roll even, any absorbent paper. Decant the fat and the juice into that box, and then let it soak into the paper for a couple of minutes before taking it to the bin and sticking it in the bin. This is a general waste bin in our house. If you've got recycling, you don't want to put this in the recycling because of all the fat. Now you've had 10 minutes, your pasta's cooked, turn the heat off, take it over to the sink and pop it through a sieve. I'm using a clean sieve here. You can see the other sieve from the fat is in the sink. That's going to be washed up later. You don't want all that beef fat all over your pasta. So pop the pasta into the sieve, give it a good shake and a tap, get all that excess liquid out, and then it's ready to go. I want to season this pasta a little bit because I like it to have a bit of flavour. So whack it back in the dry pan that you've just boiled it in and have now drained it. Add a good slug of olive oil. Just stick your thumb over the top of the bottle and leave a small gap so you can control how much pours out. Season the pasta with the olive oil and then add a good grind of salt or a sprinkle of salt. And that will be really good. It'll be delicious with the bolognese sauce, but it's good with any pasta. A bit of olive oil and salt is a great seasoning for pasta. And then you're going to mix that through. It will stop the pasta sticking to itself. It will add a lovely flavour to it. And then you are good to go to serve. So, magic. Poof. Bit of cheese ready. Get the pasta and the sauce on the plate. Grab a stick grater if you've got one, or just pre-grate a little bit of cheese with the standard box grater. Over the top of your sauce. And that's it. It's done. It's good to go. It's delicious. And it's the next step in using our simple tomato sauce to make something else. Thank you very much for watching this video. Again, apologies for the quality. It was one that we had pre-recorded on the original camera at the same time as the tomato sauce. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. And remember that our written recipes can be found on our website, which is www.nickscookingbasics.co.uk. I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. I really hope it helps you to see how you can build from one basic to another, making progressively more complicated dishes without any difficult cooking techniques, to make your life more exciting, to make your diet more diverse, and to just enjoy yourself and have fun. The next video, hopefully in this series, will be a lasagna recipe which takes this bolognese that we've just made and takes it to the next step of turning it into a lasagna. We'll see you then. Have a fantastic time.